Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining this webinar. Really, my goal here today is that I provide you with a lot of value. Valuable information is going to help you, to really transform, your business or the way that you're doing marketing right now at your restaurant. This just comes from firsthand experience through all my years, in restaurant marketing. Well, actually, own and operated restaurants. So I've been in the business since 2005. So, I've been doing this for a long time, and I was also a head of marketing for a large hospitality group, which gave me a lot of experience, and I've tried everything under the sun in restaurant marketing. So we've been able to really figure out, what works, what doesn't, and how to really track and figure out your ROI. Because I know that's a huge question, that many people have, in the restaurant business. And I had, when I was in it. And so I thought that this subject was, important to address. And again, I hope this is really valuable for you. All right, so let's get started. So please, in this webinar, please just turn off your cell phones, social channels, any distractions, so you can really focus and get the most information to get the most out of this. And of course, I'm going to send you guys a replay so you can also always watch it, but later, pay attention because of course, this is a chance also you can ask questions and all the stuff that you may have. All right, so who am I and why should you listen to me? These are the things I was just sharing with you. I've been in the business since 2005, own operated restaurants, and then also again head of marketing for this hospitality group. We started with two units with these guys when we started, and then we grew up to to being a big hospitality group with multi-unit, multi-concepts, all of this stuff. Anyways, track record of 99% client retention rate. We've been doing this for a while now, and they're happy, so that's definitely a good sign. Everybody's happy; they're getting results. We publish articles of different channels, different media, and also we're coming out with a new book. I'm coming out with a new book. I'll let you guys know when that's available. And that's a lot of information there. Some of the stuff that I'm going to be covering here today. All right. And we work with restaurants across the U.S. and we've helped them with their marketing, of course, and to get results. There's some testimonials here. I can send you all this stuff. We're not going to get into these details, but anyways, let's get into this. All right. So what are we going to be covering today? So first is mapping out your customer digital dining journey. So we're going to go through the buyer's journey and we're going to talk about why that's important to understand, because it's really going to help you not just to optimize, the channels where they're finding you, but also setting up the tracking systems that you need to be, to be able to determine your ROI. Okay. There's also, we're going to go through platforms and systems that are going to be, helpful for you. So we will, so you can look into these platforms and see what you need to implement, you can implement, so you can start, getting these type of results or doing the tracking properly so you can determine your ROI. Okay. And then we're going to go through best practices and just, and I'm going to show you some real life examples from restaurants. And that's going to really be the best way to explain this so you can see exactly how we do this so you can do it for yourself as well. All right. So first, it's also important to understand, why do most marketing campaigns fail, right? Or and why is it so hard, to know if things are working or not? So first is failing to understand the buyer's journey. That's what we're going to be covering up next. Also failing to understand which channels to use for each specific campaign, because sometimes it depends on the campaign that you're running, depending on your objective. If you're trying to use the platform that's not right for that campaign and you're investing in it, you're not going to see those results. Okay, there's no tracking systems in place. This is a common thing, right? Because they might not have the technical knowledge, right? So they're not setting up those systems. So they're, usually it happens that restaurant owners just, running ads with no tracking systems. So then you just see clicks and you see these type of things, and it's very common, right? The other day I was speaking to a prospect and he was saying, hey, yeah, we increased our ad spend. Right now we're spending about, he was spending quite a bit of money on ads, but you know how it is. We can't really tell if it's working or not. You know what I mean? We think it is. Okay. So that's not really the right answer. There are ways that you can really track your efforts. It's not going to be a straight path every single time, but it's going to give you a really good understanding if your efforts are being fruitful. Okay. Also failing to understand how and when to, I talked about that already. And then allocating resources to the wrong marketing channel. So that means if you don't understand which channels are actually bringing the results, then you're going to be investing in the ones that are probably not the ones that are yielding the results, right? So that's normal to see. Okay, so why understanding the buyer's journey is essential for success? So let's look at this. Okay, so this is the typical buyer's journey, right? This is in digital marketing, right? So, well, not just digital marketing, marketing in general. So First is the awareness stage, right? So this is when you got customers or prospects really looking at options or where to eat, right? Where to dine. So this is the place where you need to be looking at all the different channels where people have, your prospects have a contact with your brand. So this is first, you got to look at all of the channels, not just one of them. So your website is there, your Google listing, your social media channels, paid advertising if you're doing that, of course, referrals. That means influencers, UGC is user-generated content. So that means people at your restaurant that are posting pictures, all of that stuff. Of course, they word of mouth, right? And then you have your direct sales. If you have an events team, you're doing catering or private events, then if they're doing direct sales like cold outreach, that's also part of the awareness. And then you're doing email. If you're doing earned media, that's press. Of course, that's included in there. So that's the awareness phase. This is when people are actually considering you. So it is super important that in the awareness stage, you optimize every single channel. And we're going to go through that in the next slide. So it is easy for people. Well, first it needs to be impactful, communicate your brand, and then it's easy for people to lead them to the consideration and then to the action phase, okay? Then in the consideration phase, this is where people, where prospects are actually thinking about, okay, now I found you, right? Let's say your Google listing. Now I got to see if I like you or not, right? So this is when they're really considering your restaurant. So now, things to consider here, providing complete information and easy accessible information, right? So because if you don't find where you are, your phone number, your menu, all of that stuff, then, you can be, it's going to play to your detriment, okay? You need to be showcasing your offerings in the best possible way, of course, beautiful images, your menu, the ambience, everything that really sets your restaurant apart, okay? Social proof, okay? Reviews, super important, okay? Because that's the first thing people do, right? They see, let's say, an ad on Instagram or they see something, and then they go to check out your reviews and see if you're right and see what other people say. Social proof, again. So your reviews, super important to of course, they need to be really good. And then also, just be on top of them. And we'll talk about that in a little bit as well, okay? Convenience, make it easy for the people that are finding you to take the next step. So that may be a reservation, that may be an online order, that may be a call, right? So any of those things, we're submitting a form for an event or a catering order. So just make it easy for them. Again, we're going to cover how to do that in the next slide. And then the action phase is when people they already went through the consideration. Now they're ready to take that next step and to take that action. So make it clear for them what is the next thing to do. So clear CTAs, that call to actions, that may that be a call, reservation, any of that stuff, right? And then creating, we're going to talk about landing pages in a second, but then also follow up immediately, right? So if they send a form submission asking for a catering order, or if they, they're trying to make a reservation, they call, the level of service needs to be there on all of these touch points, okay? Next, these are the customer touch points. This is just something that helps us, that we created really to help us guide us on all the different touch points that the customer has digitally. And, basically you need to be in all of these, right? That just gives you a overview of where you need to be, right? And then how you need to optimize all of these channels, right? And then kind of go through each one, right? Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. So again, after we do this, then we're going to get into the ROI, but this is important because you need to have all these channels optimized and have the right tracking systems in place. So then you can track, really look at the ROI. And again, we're going to get into that next. So first, let's talk about optimization for your website. So it goes without saying that you need to have a beautiful website, right? So if you're a website, some people say, oh, it's not that important right now. It is super important. Still, people are going to the site and that's where they're going to be finding information, okay? And then you control this so you can make it really beautiful. And it's not just about that, but it's also understanding structure. Because again, you need to make it easy for people to find the information that they're looking for. So in a website, for example, they need to be looking at the first thing that they're going to do. Normally they're looking at your location, where you're at. They're looking at your hours. They're looking at maybe a phone number to how to contact you, or they're looking to place a reservation, place an order, or make a reservation, right? Those are the main things. So a cool thing, that you can do here, because, some people don't really look at the stuff that's going on behind the back end on your website. Go to Google Analytics. You need to set that up. Of course, it's going to be part of the tracking, but then just see where people are going on your page, right? and you can see how many visits, page visits you get on each page. So then you'll find out what people are looking for in your restaurant, and you'll notice that it's usually, again, your location, right? Because they're trying to find you, or they're trying to see your menu, right? Or they're trying to place an order or a reservation. So those are the things that you're going to notice. Okay, but do that exercise for your own, for your website, and that's going to give you important information. Okay, next, provide complete information, because again, if you're not providing all the information that they're looking for, then they're not gonna, well, there's less chance they're gonna take the action, the next action, right? So if you provide all the information, for example, this is mostly important for, let's say, private events or catering, because this is not an easy, it's not a fast decision. So for this, if you provide all the information that they're looking for, you're going to shorten the sales process. Okay, so it's very important to do that. Okay, next, clear call to actions, buttons. That's what I was saying before. Make it very easy for them to do that. Convenience is king, and you guys know this because for example, with third delivery platforms, why do you think people use them for so much? Because it's super convenient. Convenience trumps anything. So that's really the basis for loyalty. So make it very convenient. So tracking systems. Okay. So first, Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, those things. I'm not going to get into the technical details of how to set that up, because that would be a whole webinar in itself. But you can find, if you have an in-house team doing this stuff, they can do it. If not, you can find freelancers on Upwork or somewhere where they can, a developer or somebody specialized in digital marketing, and they can set up those for you. Okay. But it's really important that you have these. The most important thing that we want to cover on this webinar is that you have, again, the list of things that you need to do. And then if you can't do it yourself, then you'll find somebody that can, right, and has this knowledge so they can implement it for you. Okay. Then a CRM, for events, that's super important to have. Something like Triple Seat, that's a great tool, right? Because it also allows you to create different forms for each channel, so then you can know wherever those leads are coming from, right, to which channel is bringing on those leads, right? And again, because that's going to help you determine your ROI for each of these channels and your marketing efforts. Okay. Next, of course, reservation links or tracking links. If you're using a system like OpenTable, 7 Rooms, Resi, any of those, basically you can create tracking links there, and you're going to be able to insert it there on your website. So you know that all the reservations that are coming through there, when you're running reports at the end of the month, which you need to be doing, you will look and see how many reservations are coming through your website. Okay. Now, track calls, because also people are still calling, either through your Google listing or they're calling through your website. But call tracking is a must, because then you know how many calls are actually coming from there, and then you can actually record those calls. So you can also see, really listen in and see the level of service that your staff is providing, right? Your team. Okay. And then, of course, tracking online orders and all that stuff. Okay. Now, Google listing, kind of the same deal, right? So you need to be optimizing your listing. Make sure you're always updating it in terms of hours, information. Of course, photos, super important. Keep doing that, and label those photos is going to help you with SEO. Okay. Then, of course, doing posts, and then encouraging customers to leave, of course, positive reviews. That goes more in the training side at the restaurant level. Include it in your steps of service, because just make it a non-negotiable. When people, the servers know exactly what experience their guests are having. So if they're having an amazing experience, just, you just go ask them. Most of the times they'll leave you a review. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, then for the tracking, of course, go in there, check out, where, and look at the insights and see, how customers are finding you. You'll be able to see this on the back end. Okay, social media optimization. Again, tailor your content for each platform's audience and your brand. Just tell your story, right? In very different ways. Make sure it matches your brand, right? And engage with your followers, right? That sometimes I see some restaurants that, they're posting stuff and people are interacting, but they're not really responding to the comments or engaging with them. And remember, these are real people, but on the other side. So you can always use that also as a sales tool, right? Because you can also inform them about different specials or things that you have going on. So, make sure to do that. Now, when it comes to tracking, use your analytics. I know it's time consuming, but if you're not looking at what's going on in the back end, on your social channels, then you don't know if what you're doing is yielding any results. So first, you have your engagement metrics, so you can use tools, to make this process easier, like Sprout Social or Metricool, like any of these that are going to help you not just to schedule posts and all that stuff is going to make your life easier, but also for looking at the analytics. It gives you comprehensive reports, and then you can see what's going on. Okay. And then, of course, you can create specific links. You can use a tool like Bitly. So you can create specific, links, and that you can, post on when you post on your social channels, on your link tree on Instagram, if you're posting on Facebook, so you can see if there's anything that's coming from there. Okay, that's something that we do on, with all of our clients, because believe it or not, there are some, there are actually some people that do, actually book through your links, or or place an order, or any of those things that you do on the organic side. Okay. Next, we have the paid ads. This is very involved. I'm not going to get again into too many details of the technical side of these things, but it's just for you guys to understand the things that you need to be setting in place. Okay. So one thing is, when you're running social ads, there's a lot of the stuff, about this, but, just make sure, well, a couple of things that you need to do. So segment your audiences. So you need to have different audiences, and that includes your retargeting audience. That means everybody that is visiting your website, that is visiting any of your social channels, right? Or if you have databases, you can upload those on Facebook or Meta now, and you can target those people there, right? Facebook will match those lists to, profiles. Okay, doesn't match all of them, but if they match, it'll find the match. Okay, so do that. Then you'll have your prospecting audience, which is really people that may have no contact with you, and you're just reaching out to people around your area. You can set that up with, with targeting specific to behaviors or to specific demographics and things like that are matching your restaurant, and around a specific area, usually a 3 to 5 mile radius. It depends on the restaurant, right? And then your lookalike audiences. If you have a big enough database, then you can create an audience that's, that's a lookalike to that. That's more for regional, right? And not so much for very local, because that lookalike audience doesn't really work too much for that. But anyways, those are the things that you want to keep in mind for that, for the optimization side. Create different ad sets, right? And you'll create different ad sets that, per audience. And usually what you want to do is include not just one ad creative, but test different ones. Run 4 or 5 different creatives, copy and images or videos, right? And then kind of, see which ones are working. Okay. You also want to be doing the same thing for Google. You want to create groups, so ad groups, not just one single ad. For example, with private events, I see this all the time. They create one ad group. Private events is very general. It's all of the keywords in one place, right? And so, it's really the wrong way to go about it. So you're not going to get great results. And then also when people, go into that ad, they usually just send them to their website, right? So when you get into the website, you're lost, because now the tracking is going to be very difficult. You're not going to know if your ads are being effective. So what you want to do instead is create specific landing pages per ad group. There's tools that you can use for these landing pages. We're creating them. Yes, if you have a WordPress site or any of other backend, you can create the landing pages there. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. But you can hire a developer to do that for you, or you can use tools like Unbounce or Instapages. Okay, so those two platforms are really good. They'll allow you to do all the tracking, right? Insert all the links or all the stuff that you need to, and you can design them. It's pretty simple to use. So so try that out. Okay, there are structures to that. I'm not going to again get into the structures for landing pages and all that stuff, but just one thing that you definitely need to consider if you want to do the tracking and figure out your ROI. Okay, so be regularly testing, A/B testing. That means testing different creatives, testing different type of campaigns, so you really see what's working. Okay, now let's get into the phase of the tracking. There's a lot of stuff into this. Again, these are the basics. Okay, so of course, use your ads manager. I see a lot of restaurant owners, not using the ads manager. They're basically boosting posts directly from the, there's a business manager, but they're boosting posts. They're not really, going in the backend and setting this up properly. So you're really just wasting your money here, because again, there's no tracking systems in place, and you might get clicks, but you have no idea if it's actually working or not. And if you don't have your audiences defined, properly, again, you're just going to be wasting money, and you won't be able to figure out your ROI. Okay. Google, same thing, test different creatives and divide it in ad groups. Okay, depending for events, like I was saying, split it by occasion. So there's, you're going to have your people that are looking for corporate events. You're going to have your people that are doing social events like baby showers, wedding rehearsals, all of that stuff. So you can split all those stuff up. So then you can really know, right, which ones are actually bringing in the results. Again, tie that into landing pages, and the landing pages need to have tracking links, and they need to have tracking, also like set up for tracking calls and all of those things. So then you can figure out the ROI, which is what we're going to look at next with some examples. Okay, heat maps, also very important to have. If you have the landing pages, you can insert heat maps. There are different platforms that you can use. You can look them up, that you can set up with your landing pages, so you can see behavior in your landing pages, what people are doing when they land on your page, if they're not finding the information that they need, or they're not, or what are they doing there. So important to have there. Again, Bitly, a great tool, like I said, that's just going to help you to track clicks that you're going to know from which ads, from which channels those are coming from. Okay. Email. Okay. Optimization. Constantly grow your list. That's the main thing with email. So with everything that you do, okay, just keep in mind that you want to collect as much data as possible. So when you're thinking about, when you're at your restaurant, there's different ways of doing that. You can do it with a Wi-Fi system. Sometimes they don't give you great emails, so that's not the best way, but it's definitely important to have. And that's how you're going to start building your, you can start building your database, but also through ads, right? If you're running ads, there's different ways that you can do this. You can do lead forms, right? You can do, and you can tie that to, to certain offers with digital coupons. There's platforms like Coupon Carrier, which you can use. You can create digital coupons. And so when you're running ads, they see an ad, they click for the free offer, right? They go there, they register, they give you their information, and then a coupon gets sent out to their email, and then they visit a restaurant to redeem it, right? So it's very simple, and it's very effective, and you're going to be gathering data with all your efforts, okay? And of course, generating sales as well, okay? So keep that one in mind. So segment your list as well. This is important because sometimes they have just one huge list and nobody goes into segmented. Remember that it's important to segment those lists, especially if you have, again, catering, private events. Put those separately. It's going to help you to be way more effective with your marketing efforts if you're doing something specific for that. Okay. And also refresh your templates, right? And your style, your images, okay? Because that's just to keep it fresh. Now, when it comes to tracking, these are the most important things. Okay, so yes, use a platform like MailChimp or Sendinblue. Any of those that you can use is going to help you track your click-through rates, your open rates, which are important to look at because you see the effectiveness of your emails. But also now, when we're talking about ROI, is you want to have specific links for reservations, right? So the system like OpenTable, you can go and create tracking links and name it like email, right? You just tag it there, you put that name there. So then that when somebody makes a reservation there, you run a report and you'll know that it came from your emails, okay? So after you run a campaign, pull up that report, see how many reservations came through your email. So just do remember, though, that it's not always a straight path. They might make the reservation through the email right then and there, but sometimes they just see the email and then make a reservation through a different channel. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But again, so also you can implement, the tracking links, like I said, with Bitly and all that stuff. So you'll also know how many, clicks came through that channel, all that stuff. You'll be able to figure all that stuff out. Okay. Referrals. We're talking about influencers here specifically. So one thing, I know most restaurateurs don't like influencers, and I was in the same boat for a long time because they just wanted free stuff, and they weren't. Sometimes they didn't really provide the value that we were looking for, right, in that exchange. So make sure that if you're going to work with influencers, vet them, right? Make sure that they're a right fit for your brand, but also make sure that their engagement rate is there. So you can use different platforms, and one example is Flanks, and it's actually they have a free trial that you can use. So you can really you can look for the influencer, you can insert them there, right? Type the information in there, and it'll tell you their engagement rate. So you want to make sure that they're anywhere between 2 and 4%. Higher is better, but anything less than that, then that's not going to be a good fit, right? Because they're not going to be enough people that are going to be looking at the content that they're putting out there. Okay. And then for tracking, again, the engagement rate I was talking about, then creating unique referral codes, coupon or links, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing a specific event, right, where you're actually selling tickets or something like that, then it's a lot easier. You can use, something like Eventbrite, and you can create specific codes, right, and links that they can share with their audience, and then you can know, actually how many people actually bought the ticket for that event, for that. But again, you can do it in different ways. You can do it with codes, or you can do it with digital coupons as well. Again, a platform like Coupon Carrier can help you with that, and because you can create specific coupons that they can share with their audience, right, when they're posting that stuff, so if their efforts brought in, any results. Again, it's not always a straight path, because sometimes people are not going to come from that. They just saw it and then they come to a restaurant. But again, we're trying to figure out ROI here, and we're trying to get granular on this. Okay, SMS. So here, kind of the same thing. You just need to be, keeping, in terms of optimization, keep messages concise, and start tracking, tracking links again, so you know what's going on with your SMS efforts. Okay. This is very straightforward. I'm not going to get too much into this, but if you have a system, for example, if you're trying to track online orders, if you're sending out an SMS, you're trying to track online orders, a system, for example, like AppFront, there's other systems out there where it allow you to create a link from there. So when they're clicking there, they go into the system, and you know exactly how many orders actually came from that SMS. So those are the ways that you can track that. Okay. This is a list, guys, just to make it simple for you, so you can, take a screenshot of this. I mean, we'll send the video later, but just to give you of an idea, or a comprehensive list of the tools that you'll need, or that you can use, to track all your marketing efforts. And this is going to be by channel. Okay, you have your landing pages that we talked about, the Unbounce, Insta pages, Bitly, right? Super important. Social analytics. You'll use something like Metricool, Sprout Social, Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager. Of course, your conversion API, set it up on Facebook, right? Because the pixel is still out there, so still use it, but conversion API is the way to go. Again, I think you'll need a developer for that. Open Table, 7 Rooms, tracking links, right, for reservations, and then use something like, again, Triple C for events, and then look at, for call tracking, something like CallRail is very effective. And then for reviews, I would recommend Marquee is a great tool, not just for review responding, but for also maintaining consistency of your listings. Okay, we're actually going to have a webinar later in October specifically about reputation management, and we'll get into details of this. And then for influencers, something like Flanks, there's a bunch of other systems out there, but it's going to help you for tracking, and then also for execution. All right, so that's a lot that I've just unpacked right now. And do you guys have any questions, anything that you learned, anything at all that that you want to talk about before we move forward? Okay, let me see. Where is this? We're at, okay, yeah, we got a question from Kevin. What platform should be the first to optimize, the website or my ads? Kevin, the answer is both. You need to be tracking, really optimizing both, because they're going to be finding you in both places. First, if you're running ads, they need to be optimized so they perform well and you're actually getting a good result. But also, if you're sending them to your website, depends on which ads you're running. You want to make sure that your website is optimized and has all the tracking systems in place, again, to be able to determine what happened, right? And then determine your ROI. Okay. So if it's a landing page, again, if you're doing it through your site, that needs to be optimized. If you're doing it through a system like Unbounce or Insta pages, that needs to be set up properly as well. Okay. So short answer, both. All right. Any other questions? All righty. So we're going to now move forward. Now we're going to get into the details, okay, of the actual ROI. So now, what are the KPIs and metrics to track? So this is going to be depending on the channels, right? So this is just a summary we're providing here of some of the KPIs that you need to be looking at per channel, okay? And then next, we're going to jump into the actual metrics, which is more going into your POS and looking at your sales data, because you don't need to be just looking at KPIs. Now you need to be looking at, for your digital channels, you need to be looking at what really happened at the restaurant level, because that's the most important part, right? And then tying those two things together, right? And seeing that, and then going into the actual, numbers, right? The sales numbers. Okay, so let's get into this. So for social media, of course, engagement metrics, comments, shares, mentions, reservations, all of that stuff that's going on in there. For email, open rates, click-through rates, reservations. Again, having those reservation links in there for your emails. Social media ads, clicks, conversions, reservations, calls, right? Form submissions, all that stuff. You need to be, measuring, tracking all those KPIs. For Google Ads, kind of the same thing. Conversions. Conversion can mean a driving direction. Conversion can mean a form submission if you're doing events, right? Or it can mean a reservation that was made directly. There was a click, and then there was a reservation done through your website, through your landing page, okay, or through your website. Depends what you're setting up. Calls, of course, driving directions, as I said, SMS, clicks, right? Calls and orders, if you have, again, the systems in place for that. So, and then open table, of course, reservations. All right, so like I was saying before, guys, it's not always a straight path. So you need to dig deeper. So you're not just looking at these KPIs and saying, okay, I got a bunch of clicks, I got this, yeah, it looks great. But now you got to look at your sales data. Okay, so first, run a report on your POS. Okay, so let's talk about, we'll look at the specific examples right now. But let's say, you're doing something like, Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, or something, a specific, event promotion like that, where you're selling actual, menus. So you're not just looking at your reservations, all that stuff, but look at your sales, because sometimes they saw your email, they saw your ad, they didn't make a reservation through your landing page, they just liked it and they thought about it later, and then they called and made a reservation, or they went directly to your website there and they made a reservation there, or they just went to your Google listing. Okay, so just look at your sales and then compare it. See if you have a comparison versus last year, then do that. See if there was a difference. If you don't have a comparison versus last year, just compare it to the day. Let's say that was your promotion was on a Wednesday. Just look at the last 4 Wednesdays and see if there's a trend there. See if there was an increase when you were actually running this campaign. Okay. So those are the things that you need to be looking at. So now if you have a direct comparison, for example, like a Mother's Day or Valentine's, you can look at both years and see if there's a difference. But go beyond that, not just the sales, but look at your guest count. Okay. Look at your menu sales. Let's say if you had a special menu for Valentine's or for Mother's Day, look at your menu sales. Look at your check average, because those are the things you also need to be thinking about, right? Because if you're selling, for example, a menu, maybe last year you priced it at $100 and this year you priced it at $65, so those things are also, you need to consider. You might have sold more menus this year with selling a cheaper menu, right? But your check average was higher than last year. So your sales are going to be different. Okay. You're going to say, oh, we didn't do that well because we sold more this year. Yes, but also your check average was higher, So you might have actually sold, your guest count might have been higher, but depends on your check average. So all of those things play a part in figuring out your ROI. Okay. And so anyways, I know this gets really granular, but it's important to look at. Okay. Look at your reservations. Again, look at your guest count. And then after you do all that stuff, now we get into your return on investment and your return on ad spend. Okay. So now calculating your ROI. This is after looking at all this stuff, and I know it's been a lot of information that I've covered, but if you don't understand the basics and the basic things that you need to set up beforehand, you won't be able to look at this. Okay, so now we get into the ROI. So let's look at some case studies, because this is really the easiest and the best way, to figure this out and to look at live examples. Okay, so this is one of our clients. This is Padrino's Restaurant. And we did a campaign for the holidays, actually, for catering. Okay, so let me change here. Let me share my screen really quick. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, all right. So again, this was a campaign that we did for the holidays, and this is a report that we provide for our clients when we do any campaign, right? So you're going to be looking at all the specifics. Okay, this is the first thing that you'll see with these reports. You're going to be looking at the 3 things that are most important: awareness, direct front-end sales, and then data, because those are you want to, of course, collect data every time that you can. So in terms of awareness, there were 40,000 people that saw this. Direct front-end sales, there were $17,000 in revenue. It's actually a little bit over that. But anyways, this is just a summary. But let me take you to the details where I want to take you. Okay, so now we're getting into, you see the ad creatives, all of that stuff that's there. But what I want to show you is really the breakdown. Okay, so we're tracking, of course, the email stuff, right? We're looking at open rates, we're looking at click-through rates. As you guys can see here, there's really great open rates, for this particular client. There's a bunch of clicks. There's a really good audience that they have that they've built over the years. And this is really important data to have. So we really go into the ads data and all of that stuff, but what I want to show you is really the breakdown. Okay. So the channels that we were using email, Facebook, we were using, of course, our website, organic posts, SMS, and we were using ads, right? So we're looking here first at clicks. So it doesn't mean that clicks aren't important. They are, because they're also going to tell you, right, what channels are being effective to drive that type of awareness and engagement, right? So for example, with emails, we had over 2,000 clicks. The Facebook campaigns have almost 2,000 clicks as well. The website, this is there was a pop-up banner that we set up in their website. They have amazing traffic to their website. That's what I'm saying. The websites are still really relevant. Depends on your audience as well, right? But look at these clicks. There was 2,600 of them, right? Organic posts, there was only 5. So again, people think social media is it. Is not it. Marketing is way more than social media. Social media is very helpful. Paid advertising through social media is a whole different deal, okay, as you can see there. But anyways, it's really important to have it. You still need to have it. SMS, right, which we used. Okay, so now, and let me just step back a little bit. This campaign was specifically to drive catering orders for the holidays, okay? So really the objective here was to get leads and to get form submissions asking for catering orders, okay? So now we're looking here at the breakdown per channel. Now you got from your email efforts, over all those clicks, there was only 85 that came direct. So people clicked on that email, that submitted the form, right? And there was 85 of them. Through the Facebook ads, there was 21. Google ads, there was 10. The pop-up banner on the website, there was 45. Of course, your direct channels are always the best. Okay, so that's why it's so important to build your database, right? And then your organic post, there was only 1. SMS, there was 3. And there was 28 unaccounted submissions. We didn't know where those come from. That's why I was saying it's not always a straight path, because they might have seen your marketing, but then they're going to go in a different channel and they're going to actually, place that order or whatever it is that they're going to be doing, making that reservation, right? But now going into the ROI. Okay, this is the stuff we've been talking about. So now okay, which channels were the most effective, and now you can calculate your ROI. So how much did we spend in advertising, and then how much did we spend on both channels, and then how much revenue did we generate, right? So in this case, that was the total that was generated through this campaign. Okay, these were just form submissions that came in through all these different efforts, and this was the total revenue that was generated. In this particular case, we did not have the actual information from the restaurant in terms of how much they spent on each order. Here we took an average of each catering order on a conservative side, which was $100. Okay. And it's actually more than that, but here, just to be conservative, that's what we're doing. Okay, so that's the total revenue. There's probably more than this. Again, it is more than that if you look at the actual orders. But if you guys are at your restaurant, if you have this information, you can pull it up and see how really, what you got from each of these orders added up, and you'll see exactly what your revenue was. Okay, your return on ad spend, it was 5x, basically 521%. That's great. Your return on ad spend and return on investment, it was 10 times your investment. So it's really good results with this particular campaign. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears here, and I'm going to show you a different example, because now we covered an example that shows form submission specifically for catering, but now let me show you an example for something like Valentine's, right? Because this is more, it comes down to a specific promotion, actually selling menus. So, and then we're tracking, reservations and other things here. Okay. So this is another client in Miami. Basically, same thing as before. We're looking at awareness, direct front end sales. As you guys can see here in the summary, there was a sales increase by 29% in this campaign versus last year. Guest count increased by 95%. There was 149 reservations. That's the revenue there. You can see it's here, or 17,000. And the over $9,000 that came directly from the paid advertising. Okay, so that's the stuff that we're interested, right? We're wanting to see, well, both things, but really is okay. Are my ads being effective? Are they actually yielding a result? So we're gonna get into that in a second, or how we track that and how we can know that result. Okay, and then in terms of course, your ROI. Those are the numbers here. It was 5 times that, and your ROAS, your return on ad spend, it was 6 times. Okay. Data, there were 16 new contacts that came from this campaign. Okay. Again, this is the reports that we show our represent to our clients. We have, of course, all the ad creatives. Again, we were talking about landing pages. Okay. So for this one, It doesn't have to be a complicated landing page. This is a very, very simple landing page. Okay. All you need to do is, this is going to help you to know how many people are actually, reserving from your marketing efforts by channel. So you create one landing page, then you duplicate it, and then you use it for each of the different channels, right? So you use one for email, you use one for your ads, you use one, for your organic efforts. So everybody that clicks on those different channels is going to go to a different landing page, and that landing page is going to have a different reservation link. So then you'll know, and you'll be able to attribute where it's coming from, and then you'll be able to attribute, if they make the reservation through there, for example, and you have an integration with Toast. Let's say you have Open Table and you have an integration with Toast, you can actually know how much they actually spent, when they went to the restaurant. So then you can really get granular on your ROI and very accurate. Okay, so what channels did we use in this campaign? We used email, your banner, again, your website's very important, social media ads, Google ads, your organic stuff, right? Your Google listing, and we actually did an open table experience in this campaign. It was actually very effective, as you guys will see. Okay, so use all your channels. Don't just use one. Okay, email marketing, again, this is the information, click-through rates, open rates, all that stuff that's important, just to see the effectiveness of this, right? These are open rates are good, really good. Also, click-through rates are okay. Again, click-through rates, don't get tied up on that stuff, because again, it's not always a straight path. It's really about them seeing your messaging. Okay, so now let's look into the summary. This is what we needed to look at. Okay, by channel. So clicks, again, it's important to look at, but then now we got to see how many reservations or direct reservations. This is a very particular example, as you can see, because you can see there's a ton of clicks here, right? Email over 3,500, social media ads 1,600, Google ads 400, over 400. Then your banner 190, and your organic stuff, right? And then the open table experience, of course, not clicks, that was reservations. But how many reservations actually came in from these? Okay, directly. There was only 2, email, 5 through social ads, 2 through Google ads, and then 7 through your banner on your website. And you have 3 through your organic efforts, and you had 60 coming from your open table experience. Okay, so in this particular case for this restaurant, this is a very effective channel. That doesn't mean that because they didn't make a reservation directly through there, that didn't have an effect or an impact in your overall sales, as we're going to look into next. That's why I was saying it's not always a straight path. So you got to be looking at all that data. Okay, so as you can see here, okay, we actually looked at attendance rate. Okay, that's the estimated revenue. And here we can see how many reservations actually came from your paid advertising and how much that generated. Okay, but now we're going to look at the sales data. Okay, so we compared last year's Valentine's to this year's Valentine's, right? And we look at the difference. And now, because you can really see the impact of this campaign. For 2022, they sold 13,000, almost 14, and then for 2023, almost 18. So there's a 29% difference there. Okay, and for the guest count, again, you got to look at all those numbers. There was a 96% increase. So that's huge, right? Now you're going to get into the ROI calculation. So see how much you spent on, what was your investment, right, on your Google ad spend. You didn't spend anything, really, not much if you look at it in the big scheme of things, right? So only $340 for Google. There's actually more spent for Facebook. Then we learned that, again, this channel is effective for certain things, not for everything. And then for open table, it's $5 per reservation, only $300. So total investment of $1,400, right? But we generated, and now we're only taking here into account the direct revenue that was generated from the ads, not the total revenue of that day. Okay, so you can be really more specific and more, let's say, accurate in your calculations. Okay, so your ROI was over 5 times, right? Your return, and your ROAS, it was over 6 times. Again, amazing results for this campaign. And now you can really see the breakdown of your channels, which ones they were most effective, and now you can really figure out your ROI. Again, this is a conservative calculation in a way, because as you know, give me 1 second. Let me just go back here to the files. Where is it? Presentation. Okay, slide. Sorry. So as you see, it's not always a straight path. We're being conservative here with the calculations because again, it's not always a straight path. So your ROI, you always want to go on the conservative side so you can make the right decisions. But if you want to, but just keep in mind though that as you saw, that sales increase was huge, right? So your ROI, is actually higher. right? But we always like to keep it very accurate and concise, very accurate and conservative, sorry. So, because we don't want to be making things up. Okay. All right. Let me see here. We're moving on. We have looked at those examples. So, a couple of things. Just if you guys are working with a marketing agency, or even in-house, whatever team you have, these are the things that you want to, keep in mind, especially if you're working with a marketing agency, and questions that you want to ask them when you're vetting them, right? So ask them if they know what platforms are they using, right? In terms of if they know restaurant platforms as well. This is very important to know if you're doing restaurant marketing. Also ask them what tracking systems do they set in place, right? And then also what the reports look like. As I just showed you, comprehensive reports are going to help you to really understand what's going on, right? And then also if they have a solid understanding of restaurant operations, because many agencies don't have that understanding of restaurant operations. So whatever they're doing in terms of marketing, they're going to be pissing off some people in operations, right? And they're not going to be able to execute those properly, okay? And understanding the intricacies of that. Okay, and what makes our marketing campaigns better or different? And again, this is not to brag, but just facts of how we do things. We have over 17 years of experience in the restaurant industry. Of course, we know restaurant platforms, as you can see. We set up proper tracking systems in place by channel, so you can really get granular to see what's working and what's not, and kind of and pivot from there. And we go beyond analytics, as you saw. We really look at what matters most. We look at your bottom line. We look at true performance, right? Not vanity metrics. And we provide comprehensive reports, a monthly report, and a post-campaign analysis for each of one of these campaigns that we run, again, to really gauge the effectiveness, and you can really see your ROI on all of these efforts that you're doing. Okay, and of course, we're completely transparent in everything that we do. We're really here to to help and give you the most value that we can. Okay. All right, so that's it for me today for this webinar. Guys, are there any questions that you have? Anything that you want to go over? Okay, I see a question. Okay, Rob, I have trouble measuring conversions. Could your team help set them up? Rob, yes, the answer is yes. We can set those up for you. That's what we do. As you saw, we set up all the systems in place. So when we're onboarding a client, we got to look at all your systems. We got to look at all the backend that you have set up, and we're going to make sure that everything is set up properly so you can track conversions, and not just conversions, track everything that you're doing in your marketing efforts. Okay, yeah, Kevin, can your team help me build a website that actually generates results? Kevin, yes, we do website build. We actually build websites as well, and yes, we optimize the websites so you can get results. Not just, of course, the tracking, but setting your website in a particular way that is going to drive action that we were talking about in the consideration phase. And it's it's really easy for people to navigate, get the information that they need, and convert, which is the most important part. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right, guys. So that's it for me today. I really hope that this was useful for you. If you have any other questions that come to mind later, just send us a message here. You can email us here at contact@breathmarketing.com, or you can email me directly at sebastian@breathmarketing.com, and we'll be able to provide the information that you need. Again, our goal here is to provide all the information that you need to get your, really to up your marketing game and get you the results that you're after for your restaurant. All right. Thank you guys for being here again, and hope to see you soon on the next webinar. And I'll keep you guys updated on the next date and the subject that we're going to be covering. Thank you.